This is Open Mic, and we are right back to the second segment of our program. Mr. Peters.
Yeah, I was talking to you about the STEP program. I am fully supportive of the need for any government to provide short-term employment to its people. That's a given. What I may have a problem with is how that employment is generated. Because there is the belief that a short-term employment can only be created in non-productive areas within the economy. That is not so. I have seen STEP workers cutting grass at the, you know where Computer World is up there?
Yeah.
Yeah. On the opposite side of the bank of the river, aimlessly cutting a section of grass in one direction and then come back in the next direction the following week. Now, I am saying that if you can create that level of employment that will generate, let's say, agricultural activity, or even improvement of the asset of a school, whether it is painting a school, correct, whether it is going into any public building and providing some sort of input in terms of the asset management and the facilities management, that is productive.
Correct.
Right? And I believe that if we are using loan funds to be engaged in a social project like a STEP program, that is the level of expectation.
You should get something in return.
You should get level.
I have said so repeatedly, but you know, this is the concern that St. Lucians have, that such important piece of advice fall on deaf ears. Why? I mean, we are being told, let us work together. We are the producers of this country. We have proven to the nation that we can do things. We employ people, we build and put people to work. So if we can do that and we are successful at that, why aren't they taking our advice to do that?
For example, you go to the facility that Wasco has, that sewer treatment facility.
What was it?
The Rodney Bay sewer treatment facility.
Oh yeah, right.
At Bossishu.
Yes.
The sludge that is produced there is some of the highest quality manure that you can ever get.
Okay.
Right? The sludge that is produced there. You could have a situation where your urban, let's say your urban STEP program,
yes, is
tied to that facility.
Okay.
Either with one of the last ponds being used to produce fish, and go into aquaculture there, you have an immense resource of water.
Okay.
Or using that sludge and producing vegetable gardens just on the outskirts of the facility.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm saying that if we have to take loan funds, bond money, and we want to facilitate social projects
and growth simultaneously. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Correct. Okay.
All right. So this is something that I think we really need to look at and consider.
Now, John, you were the expert on infrastructure. At our last program, you brought to my attention your concern of 3 little waterways on the Castries-Grosley Highway that need some attention. I think you mentioned to me by the JQ Rodney Bay Mall.
Yeah, that's one, yeah.
There's a little drain going across there, and there's another one by Beachcomber by American Drywall there. And you had a look at those, and these 2 areas are compromised. And you also brought to my attention that if perchance that something happened, there's very little room for a bypass. But you indicated to me that there's some kind of a lining that can be inserted to give these drains some longevity. Can you just give me a little?
I'll just go over that, yeah. In 1972, in the 70s when the road was being constructed,
yes,
they used Amco pipes. These aluminum pipes or galvanized pipes that were coated, and those pipes were used to create the culvert crossings going up on the highway.
Correct.
It was also done on the East Coast Road.
What year was that?
That would have been in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, in the 70s. So most of those pipes are now reaching to their design life.
Right.
They come to the end of the design life usefulness. Yeah. And what I have observed is that if you remember, just further up by where Valmore building is,
Yes.
that collapsed probably
I
about
remember
8 years
that,
ago,
yes.
10 years ago.
And that was a lot of confusion.
A lot of confusion, right? If you remember what is happening on the East Coast Road, there is progressive failure of those crossings.
Yes.
Every time you see a little sink, there's one now just as you approach La Paradis.
Yeah.
I
was there yesterday, I
right.
saw
That
that.
little sink in the road is a failed culvert.
Okay.
Right? So you're seeing that
Now,
happening.
just explain something to me. When you say there's a failed cover, what actually transpires?
But it's corrosion. It's a metal
I know.
product.
So what? The earth just sinks down and it collapses. So
No, the pipe itself crumbles on
Crumbles.
the pipe. If it loses that rigidity,
yes.
then it falls apart. It collapses inside. Right? So it cannot sustain the loads that are above it.
Got you.
Right. So coming back to the Grosley Highway, if you observe what has happened, that failed 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that should have alerted us that something is wrong. Then we
Because they
had-
all put at the same time.
They all put at the same time.
Correct.
Right? Then you had failures occurring at Bonte, Tropical Storm Debbie 1994.
Right.
There was a hole created that caused that collapse. You had problems occurring at Shock. You had problems occurring at Broad Ranch. And investigations would have shown that all of these were all approaching failure mode,
Yeah.
failure state.
Yeah.
So logic will say to you that if you have a situation where all have been installed at the same time and there is progressive failure occurring,
They need to be addressed.
then those that haven't failed as yet
Are coming.
are coming to you. And it's in that context I'm saying that the one that is at by American Drywall should be looked at. The one that is at Rodney Bay should be looked at because these two, because of where they're positioned in relation to the network, are critical links. If you lose that section in front of American Drywall,
There's no room.
there's no room.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where a 40-foot container will be able to pass.
Yeah.
You really can't go along the back roads
That's
with a
right.
40-foot container at all.
Now tell me something, John. Yesterday, I was at the south of the island. The fracture in the road where they put the bypass just behind there is so. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Why has it taken so long to do something there? This is almost 40 feet deep. So evidently there was, again, a failure down there.
There's a failure down
that
there,
caused.
yeah.
Was it one of those metal structures again?
But
or was it,
you're
not sure?
I think what happened there was that you had, with the heavy rains,
Yes.
you had a washout, and the washout caused the top material
Yes.
to move with it. Everything left.
But tell me something. Is it such a big job to reinstate that?
Well, it's not a big job.
So why? I mean, I don't understand.
I think it's probably cash
Yeah, but
issues. I only assume that
what
it's a
I'm
cash
trying
problem.
to say, the Prime Minister has just put an expensive road down to Bruceville that cost over $1 million, which is not being used at all. Should those funds have not gone to an area like that priority? Because you're talking of your main road coming where tourists, which is your livelihood, and you have to go around this whole thing. I mean, I want to commend the government for doing this thing, but you know, money is being spent. That bypass, what would that, if you had to put a ball figure, what would that have cost? Just to,
But I think the one area that we have to be concerned about now is that we are approaching another rainy season, another hurricane. We're in the hurricane season
yeah,
factually from
that's
June the
true,
1st,
yeah.
right? And that particular bypass then becomes a threatened area because
Yeah.
that was just a temporary crossing
Correct.
that they did. That did. And obviously now, as more than it was in January,
Yeah,
that bypass
it's going to become compromised.
is more critical now.
Yeah, because the water still has to go.
The water's still going.
So where is that water? Do they have a drain under it?
I think they have placed a small culvert
Yeah.
to create that
that makes
crossing.
sense to me.
So I agree with you that in terms of prioritization,
Yeah.
that becomes a critical piece of infrastructure that
Yeah.
should be dealt with immediately.
Okay.
That we concur with in
Okay.
that one. As I said, I can only assume that part of the reason why it has not been done is purely from an area of financing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and this is what priorities are all about, you know. Now, you know, we have gone through these areas and where we are today.
Yeah.
The next question for you is, I hate laying blame, but who is to blame or who is going to take the responsibility for these, I don't want to call it failures, but bad judgment over the last 20 years? Because you have had governments in various organizations. You were in the government. What can you tell the public today?
Well, I believe that we need to have a very honest conversation concerning that.
Okay.
I think it's important that we, first of all, identify how we got here.
Yeah.
That's important from a historical standpoint to ensure that we don't get here again.
Correct.
It's important to understand who is to blame, because my position is that who is to blame also should be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And if you go through the numbers, if you go through all my readings to date, it's showing that this situation was flagged since 2004. So what is happening today? There was evidence that action should have been taken 10 years ago in dealing with this situation, this looming debt crisis, this cash flow situation that we would have found ourselves in. What I believe happened was that, yes, over the first reign of the Labour Party, there was a ramping up of debt. There's a ramping up of debt from when they took over in that 10-year period. There's a significant ramping up of debt. Yes, it went into investments, social investments, road infrastructure, whatever the case may be.
But debt is debt.
Debt is debt, right? So if you ramp up the debt, there's a responsibility that you must take because you created the thing.
Correct.
But then, when the second government came in 2007, you had to deal with a debt that you found yourself with.
Now that was the UWP.
UWP.
Yeah.
You found yourself with a debt. And how do you deal with that debt? Do you take the hard decisions then and say to the civil servants, well, look, what we have, what we are projecting in terms of cash flow, we cannot give you that 14.5% increase? Do you say to yourself that, look, I am not, as a government, taking bond money to pay for bond money, and I will begin now to cause that retraction, to cause that shrinking of the civil service, that shrinking of expenditure, to ensure that I don't reach a situation where I run out of cash? So there is a level of blame on that administration.
Correct.
How you apportion the blame, to me, is irrelevant.
That's right.
Whether one should get 60%, one should get 40%, and whether there are other people.
You know, what strikes me, John, we keep talking of working together, but both parties seem to be very divided where we are today. And, you know, right now, Dr. Anthony has called upon the nation to mend their fences. But we are all human beings, and people get angry over certain decisions. When the situation came with the 14.5%, we all know why the Labour government pushed the people to get, so in other words, to put a level of pressure. And today, you find the United Workers' Party are applying the same pressure to the government for wanting to do what they want to do. At what point do both parties get together and say, okay, fine, we both have made mistakes, we both have criticized each other needlessly. Can there be a genuine effort to get those parties together so that we understand, no matter which government is in power, that we will deal with those issues on a professional basis, professional and honest basis, and stop this nonsense, because we as a nation are heading downhill.
And as I said, who is to blame ought to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
So your level of culpability also places a responsibility on you to sort out the issues that are done.
Correct.
And you're correct, because a small nation of 168,000 people cannot be divided on issues of color of party. You can't, it's not functional. The system is not working.
Yeah.
And there has to be, at the end of the day, some understanding that where we are now, we are in an economic war. We are at war. It's no different from a war of violence.
Yeah.
Because people will die. In this situation, people will die. People will commit suicide,
That's
unfortunately.
Right.
children will die. That's a reality. And if we understand the gravity of the situation, that it is a war that we're in, and that all have to now bear arms, and the arms we're talking about is the arms of understanding, the arms of knowledge, the arms of ideas. All of us have to contribute in order to get out of it.
Yeah, this is a very important point that will take some time to discuss. But before we go on our third segment, I just want to tell the nation what we're going to be looking at. I was listening to Newspin last week, and I saw a call from Damian Graves suggesting that what we have now is an OECS problem. And he is suggesting that the administrations get together and address this problem holistically so that they can arrive at a solution. I think it's a good idea, but you know, my father told me something many years ago, that we are saddled with a number of cardboard Hitlers in this area. And unless that those prime ministers understand that they can no longer rule these islands individually. We are too small. I take, for instance, Grenada. Mr. Mitchell has come on, and if subject to correction, he has withdrawn the embassies from everywhere except the New York area. Now, Mr. Mitchell, I know him personally. He's a very well-educated gentleman, and he had many years of experience, and he has been through the opposition and seen what has happened, and he has addressed it. And this is what we're saying all the time, that we need to address the situation. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.